Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
The low, persistent hum of the cardiac monitor was the only sound Elizabeth Weber allowed herself to focus on. It was a steady, electronic heartbeat, a fragile substitute for the one struggling within her own chest. The pale green walls of her office at General Hospital felt more like a prison cell than a sanctuary today. On her desk, a cold cup of tea sat beside a stack of patient files, their contents a blur. Her fingers, usually so steady and capable whether holding a scalpel or offering comfort, trembled slightly as she traced the rim of the ceramic mug. The confrontation with Finn had left her feeling flayed open, every nerve ending exposed. His words, laced with a betrayal so profound it felt physical, echoed in the silence. He had looked at her not as his friend, his colleague, the woman he'd loved, but as a stranger, a dangerous one. And the worst part, the part that coiled like a cold serpent in her gut, was that he had every reason to. From his perspective, her actions were inexplicable. How could she ever explain the impossible choice that had been forced upon her? The truth was a luxury that could get someone killed. The secret, a malignant weight she had to carry alone, was slowly crushing her from the inside out. She jumped as her phone vibrated, skittering across the polished surface of the desk. The screen lit up with a name that sent a fresh jolt of anxiety through her system. It wasn't Finn. It was the source of the silence, the architect of her isolation. She stared at it, her breath catching in her throat, before silencing the call and dropping her head into her hands. The monitor continued its relentless, mocking hum. Across the hospital, in the bustling nexus of the nurses' station, the atmosphere was thick with a different kind of tension. The air crackled with unspoken questions and sidelong glances. Carly Corinthos, her posture rigid and her eyes blazing with a ferocity that made lesser staff members quickly find tasks elsewhere, had just finished a hushed, yet vehement, exchange with her son, Michael. The subject, as it so often was these days, involved Nina Reeves. "She's like a ghost, Michael," Carly hissed, her voice a low, sharp whisper meant for his ears only. "She's everywhere and nowhere. She's in the boardroom, she's in the media, she's in Sonny's head. I can feel her manipulations like a change in air pressure." She gripped the edge of the counter, her knuckles white. This new philanthropic initiative of hers? It's a smoke screen. It has to be. She's positioning herself, making herself look like Port Charles's savior while she systematically tries to dismantle everything we've built. Michael, ever the pragmatist, tried to inject a note of calm. "Mom, I get it. I don't trust her any more than you do. But we have to be smart. We can't just go after her without proof. She's cunning. She'll twist it, play the victim, and we'll end up looking like the bullies." He placed a hand on her arm, a gesture meant to soothe, but Carly was a live wire. "Proof?" she retorted, her gaze scanning the corridor as if expecting Nina to materialize on cue. "I have proof. I have a lifetime of her schemes. She stole my husband. She tried to steal my company. She is a chaos agent, and I will not stand by and let her poison this town, and my family, any longer." Her eyes narrowed, a plan already forming behind their green fire. There has to be a chink in her armor. Everyone has one. A mistake, a loose thread. We just have to find it and pull. She turned her intense focus fully on her son. "I want you to talk to Drew. His sense of honor might be clouding his judgment where she's concerned. Make him see what she really is." Before Michael could respond, a commotion at the end of the hall drew their attention. A gurney, surrounded by a frantic team of doctors and nurses, was being rushed towards the oar. For a split second, the professional in Carly overrode the vengeful wife, a flicker of shared humanity crossing her face at the sight of someone else's emergency. But it was quickly replaced by renewed determination. This hospital, this city, was a battlefield. And she was not about to cede an inch of ground. In the quiet, book-lined confines of his office at the Metro Court, Sonny Corinthos stared out at the Port Charles skyline. The city was laid out before him, a tapestry of his influence, his struggles, his life. But today, the view offered no solace. His conversation with Carly played on a loop in his mind. Her accusations, her fears, they were all valid. He knew the damage Nina was capable of. He had been on the receiving end of it. Yet, the woman he had encountered recently, the one who spoke with a soft-spoken regret and seemed genuinely determined to forge a new path, felt different. Or was that just what he wanted to see? Was he, as Carly had so bluntly put it, an idiot blinded by a ghost of a feeling? He sighed, the sound heavy in the silent room. The conflict was a vice, tightening around his temples. His loyalty to Carly, to their family and their shared history, was a fundamental part of his DNA. But his own heart was a traitorous, complicated thing. A soft knock on the door broke his reverie. "Come in," he called, his voice rough. The door opened to reveal Ava Jerome, a vision in a tailored charcoal suit, her expression a masterful blend of concern and cunning. "Sonny. I heard there was a bit of a scene at the hospital," she said, gliding into the room and taking a seat without being invited. She crossed her legs, her gaze sharp and assessing. "Carly's on the warpath, I take it." Sonny turned from the window, a wry, tired smile touching his lips. "When is she not? She sees threats in every shadow, Ava. And sometimes, she's right. And sometimes, she creates the very monsters she fears," Ava countered smoothly. "Look, I have no great love for Nina Reeves. You know that. But Carly's crusade, it's becoming a liability. For her, for you, for the company. The constant sniping in the press, the boardroom maneuvering, it's bad for business." She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. "What you need, Sonny, is a neutral party. Someone who can mediate. Or, if mediation fails, someone who can ensure that when the dust settles, you're still standing on top of the rubble." Sonny studied her. Ava never did anything out of pure altruism. There was always an angle. "And I suppose you're volunteering for the position?" "I'm offering a perspective," she corrected. A clear-eyed one, unclouded by past marital baggage. "Nina is a problem, yes. But the way Carly is handling it is creating a bigger one. You need to get ahead of this. Before one of them does something we all regret." Her words hung in the air, a not-so-subtle warning. She was talking about Carly's impulsivity, but Sonny knew Ava well enough to know she was also positioning herself to profit from whichever way the chips fell. She was a free agent, and in this coming war, that made her dangerously powerful. The late afternoon sun cast long, dramatic shadows across the polished floor of the Quartermain mansion. The grand house was quiet, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within its oldest son. Ned Quartermain, known to the world as Eddie Main, paced the length of his music room, a forgotten guitar resting in its stand. The melody that had been haunting him for days was now fully formed in his mind, a bittersweet ballad about lost love and second chances. But it was the lyrics that were causing him a deep, unsettling disquiet. They felt true. They felt like memories, not inventions. He stopped at the grand piano, his fingers hovering over the ivory keys. A fragment of a conversation with Olivia echoed in his head. "We were happy, weren't we, Liv? Before all this." The look on her face, a mixture of profound sadness and unwavering love, had struck a chord so deep it had threatened to shatter his Eddie persona entirely. The wall between his two identities, once so solid and impenetrable, was developing cracks. And through those cracks, Ned Quartermain was beginning to peek through. The door creaked open and Brooke Lynn stepped in, holding his toddler, Bailey. The sight of his daughter and his child? The word felt foreign and familiar all at once. A wave of affection, pure and uncomplicated, washed over him. "Dada!" Bailey cooed, reaching for him. The sound, the simple, trusting love in her eyes, was a battering ram against the walls in his mind. He took her from Brooke Lynn, holding the small, warm body close. "Hey, little songbird," he murmured, the nickname coming to his lips as naturally as breathing. Brooke Lynn watched the interaction, her heart in her throat. "She missed you," she said softly. "We all have." Ned looked from Bailey's face to Brooke Lynn's. He saw the hope there, carefully guarded but undeniable. He saw the family portrait over the fireplace, him, Olivia, Leo. A life. A whole, complete life that his mind had stolen from him. The persona of Eddie Main, the carefree rocker, was a comfortable escape, a reprieve from the pressures of the Quartermain Empire. But it was a lie. This, the weight of his daughter in his arms, the responsibility, the history etched in the lines of his wife's face, this was the truth. And the truth was terrifying. The song, he began, his voice thick with emotion. The one I've been working on. It's not just a song, is it, Brooklyn? She hesitated, then shook her head, her eyes glistening. No, Dad. It's not. It's your life. It's Mom's life. It's our life. A single, silent tear traced a path down Ned's cheek as he held his granddaughter tighter. The battle between the man he was and the man he pretended to be was reaching its crescendo. And for the first time, he was afraid of which one would win. The scent of antiseptic and despair was particularly strong in the ICU waiting room. Curtis Ashford sat, his posture a study in stoic endurance, but his eyes betrayed the tempest raging within him. The doctors had been cautiously optimistic, but the word paralysis had been used. It hung in the air between him and Portia, a specter of a future neither of them had ever imagined. Portia reached for his hand, her touch warm and familiar, but he felt a million miles away. We'll get through this, Curtis, she whispered, her voice raw from tears and worry. We're a family. We'll face this together. He squeezed her hand, a mechanical response. His thoughts were with Jordan, lying broken in a hospital bed down the hall. His partner, his friend, the woman he had shared so much of his life with. The guilt was a corrosive acid in his veins. If he had been there, if he had insisted on driving her, the what-ifs were a torturous loop. But beneath the guilt was a cold, hard fury. This was not an accident. The police were being tight-lipped, but Curtis had his own sources, his own instincts honed from a lifetime of navigating Port Charles's underworld. Someone had done this. And when he found out who, the full force of his wrath would come down upon them. The peaceful life he had built, the happiness he had found with Portia, felt like a distant dream. He was a fighter, a protector, and he had failed to protect one of the most important people in his life. That failure demanded a response. It demanded justice. Or vengeance. In that moment, the line between the two was blurring into obscurity. The dim, moody lighting of the Savoy did little to soften the harsh lines of tension on Drew Kane's face. He sat across from Willow Tate, a half-empty glass of whiskey between them. The buzz of after-work conversation provided a cover for their low, urgent tones. Carly is convinced Nina is planning another takeover bid, Drew said, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. She's pulling together every resource, calling in every favor. Willow's face, usually so serene, was etched with worry. And you? What do you think? Drew let out a long, weary breath. I think Nina is a complicated woman who has made catastrophic mistakes. I also think she's trying to atone. Her work with the Warm Springs Foundation, this new charity, it seems genuine. He met Willow's gaze. But Carly's not wrong to be vigilant. The problem is, her vigilance is starting to look a lot like an obsession. It's consuming her. And it's putting Aurora and the Foundation at risk. We can't be seen to be engaging in a public vendetta. It's more than business for her, Drew, Willow said softly. It's personal. It's about Sunny. It's about her family. You of all people know how fiercely Carly protects what's hers. I do, Drew acknowledged. And I love her for it. But there's a fine line between protection and self-destruction. I tried to talk to her, to suggest a more diplomatic approach, and she accused me of being naive, of falling for Nina's act. He shook his head. I'm not. I'm just trying to see the whole board. And right now, Carly is so focused on the Queen, she's not seeing the pawns moving into position. What pawns? Willow asked, leaning in. That's the question, isn't it? Drew replied, his eyes darkening. If Nina is planning something, she won't do it alone. She'll have allies. And my money is on Ava Jerome. She's a wild card, and she thrives in chaos. We need to be watching her, too. He finished his whiskey, the ice cubes clinking a final, decisive note. The problem with a war on two fronts is that it divides your forces. And right now, Carly is the entire army. The evening had settled over Port Charles, a blanket of deepening blue and twinkling city lights. In the secluded garden of the Robinson home, Trina Robinson sat beside Spencer Cassadine, their hands entwined. The air was cool, filled with the scent of night-blooming jasmine, a stark contrast to the heat of their recent arguments. I just don't understand why you have to be the one to fix everything, Spencer, Trina said, her voice gentle but firm. Especially when it comes to Esme. She's made her choices. She's dangerous. Spencer stared at their joined hands, his thumb stroking her knuckles. It's not about fixing her, Trina. It's about Ace. He's my brother. He's an innocent baby caught in the middle of a hurricane of our family's making. My father, my grandfather, they created this toxic environment that bred someone like Esme. I have a responsibility to break that cycle. For Ace. And what about your responsibility to us? Trina asked, her voice barely a whisper. To our future? Every time you dive back into that world, into her drama, you're giving her power over you. Over us. I love your compassion, Spencer. I love that you want to save your brother. But I'm afraid that in trying to save him, you're going to drown us both. Her words struck a chord. He knew she was right, on a logical level. But the image of his baby brother, helpless and dependent on a mother as unstable as Esme, was a torment he couldn't escape. It was a Cassadine burden, this legacy of damage and the desperate, often doomed, attempt to repair it. I have to try, Trina, he said, finally looking at her, his eyes full of a pained resolve. I can't abandon him. Not to her. Not to the system. But I promise you, you and our life together are my priority. You are my future. This, with Esme and Ace, it's something I have to resolve so that I can have that future with you, completely, without this shadow hanging over us. Trina searched his eyes, seeing the sincerity warring with the familial obligation. She leaned forward and rested her forehead against his. Then we'll find a way to resolve it. Together. But no more secrets, Spencer. No more solo missions. We're a team. Promise me. He closed his eyes, breathing in the scent of her, drawing strength from her steadiness. I promise, he whispered. It was a vow he intended to keep, even as he knew the path ahead was fraught with peril. The Cassadine family tapestry was woven with threads of betrayal and madness, and he was terrified that in trying to pull one loose thread, he would unravel the entire beautiful, fragile fabric of the life he was building with Trina. Back at General Hospital, the night shift had begun. The corridors were quieter, the frantic energy of the day giving way to a more subdued, watchful calm. In a private room on the surgical recovery floor, Laura Collins sat beside the bed of her comatose daughter, Charlotte Cassadine. She held her daughter's limp hand, her own tears a silent testament to a mother's helplessness. I'm here, my darling, she whispered, her voice cracking. Mommy's here. You're safe now. The door opened softly and Kevin Collins entered, his presence a quiet anchor in the storm of her grief. He came to stand behind her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. Any change? He asked softly. Laura shook her head, unable to speak for a moment. The doctors say the surgery was a success, but the brain is a mysterious thing. They don't know when, or if, she couldn't finish the sentence. The thought of her vibrant, complicated daughter trapped in this silent prison was unbearable. We have to have hope, Laura, Kevin said, his voice steady and calm. Charlotte is strong. She's a fighter. And she's surrounded by love. That counts for more than we can ever know. Laura leaned her head against his arm, drawing comfort from his solidity. I keep thinking about all the times I failed her, Kevin. All the times I wasn't there. Valentine, the lies, the trauma. This feels like a culmination of all of it. My failure as a mother. That is the grief talking, Laura, Kevin said firmly but gently. You are a wonderful mother. You have fought for Charlotte every step of the way. What happened to her was a tragic accident. A random, terrible event. You cannot blame yourself. But as Laura looked back at her daughter's pale, still face, she wondered if it was truly random. In a city like Port Charles, where vendettas spanned generations and secrets festered in the sunlight, accidents were rarely just accidents. And the chilling thought occurred to her, if someone had done this to her daughter, the full, formidable might of the Cassadine and Spencer families would be brought to bear. And hell would have no fury like a mother robbed of her child. The final scene of the day played out in the penthouse of the Metro Court. The city lights glittered like a spilled jewel box below. Nina Reeves stood alone on the balcony, a silk robe pulled tight against the evening chill. Her face, illuminated by the cool blue light of her phone, was a mask of calculated calm, but her heart was a frantic drum against her ribs. Her conversation with Sonny had been a delicate dance. She had projected vulnerability, a desire for peace, a woman chastened by her past and eager for redemption. She had seen the conflict in his eyes, the pull of their complicated history warring with his loyalty to Carly. It was a chink in his armor, and she had exploited it with the precision of a master tactician. Appealing to his protective instincts, his desire to see the good in people, was her best strategy. But as she ended the call, the mask slipped. A slow, cold smile touched her lips. Carly's very public outrage was playing right into her hands. Every accusation, every threat, made Carly look unstable, obsessive. It made Nina look like the victim. And in the court of public opinion, the victim often held the moral high ground. She scrolled through her contacts, her finger hovering over a name, Ava Jerome. They were not friends. They were, at best, temporary allies of convenience, united by a mutual disdain for Carly Corinthos and a shared ambition for power. She typed out a short, cryptic message. The hawk is circling. Time to prepare the nest. Ava's reply was almost instantaneous. I have the feathers. Let me know when you're ready to fly. Nina slipped the phone into her pocket and looked out at her kingdom. Port Charles. A city of dreams and nightmares, of healing and hurt, all contained within the walls of its beloved, beleaguered hospital and the powerful families it served. She had been cast out, humiliated, and broken. But she was not defeated. She was rebuilding, piece by careful piece. And this time, she would not be building a life of quiet contentment. She would be building an empire. And empires were never built without sacrifice. Down below, an ambulance, its lights flashing a silent, urgent red, sped towards General Hospital, carrying the next chapter of the city's endless drama. Inside the hospital, lives hung in the balance, love was tested, and secrets festered in the sterile air. The date was Tuesday, November 4, 2025. Another day in Port Charles had ended, but the night was still young, and the spoils of war were yet to be claimed. The Quartermain mansion was unusually quiet that morning, a silence that hung over the ornate halls like a secret waiting to burst. Tracy Quartermain sat at the grand dining table, papers spread before her. Her expression was a mix of curiosity and irritation, the two emotions that often danced across her face whenever she dealt with family business. She had been sorting through old files and estate documents after the latest revision of Edward's trust, but something had caught her attention, a sealed envelope marked private, for Monica. It wasn't new. It looked decades old, the paper yellowed, the ink faded. But it was tucked into a folder labeled Last Will and Testament, Revision 1984. Tracy's sharp eyes narrowed. Now, what on earth were you hiding, Daddy? She muttered, lifting the envelope. She hesitated for a moment, then tore it open. Inside was an alternate version of Edward's will and an attached letter in Alan Quartermain's handwriting. Tracy's hand trembled slightly as she read it. Alan's tone was heartfelt, almost desperate. If anything ever happens to me, I need this to be known. Monica made a choice long before me, one she's carried in silence for years. There is another child, her child. No one must know unless circumstances demand it. She has her reasons, and I've respected them. But if this will is ever found, it means it's time for the truth to come out. Tracy's lips parted. She looked again at the letter, reading it twice more to be sure she wasn't imagining things. Monica had another child? Her tone was sharp, disbelieving, and laced with a hint of thrill. Oh, Monica, what have you been hiding all these years? She folded the letter carefully, though her mind was racing. A secret child, and Alan knew? How was that possible? And why wasn't it ever mentioned before? She thought of all the times Monica had preached morality, judged everyone's choices, acted as though her hands were clean. The irony wasn't lost on Tracy. Later that day, Monica entered the living room carrying a medical journal and her reading glasses. She stopped when she saw Tracy sitting by the fire, sipping brandy with a suspicious smile. What's that look for? Monica asked, setting her book down. Tracy looked up casually. Oh, just enjoying a little afternoon history lesson. You wouldn't believe what turns up in the family archives. Monica raised a brow. If you're digging through my hospital files again, I swear. Oh, please, Tracy interrupted. This isn't about ELQ or the hospital. This is about something a little more personal. Monica's posture stiffened. Personal? Tracy stood, holding the letter delicately between her fingers. Recognize this handwriting? Monica froze. Alan, she whispered. Bingo, Tracy said, walking closer. I found this tucked in the old will files. Apparently, there's a version of Daddy's will that included a rather juicy addendum from your dearly departed husband. Monica swallowed hard, her voice tight. You had no right to go through those documents. Oh, please, Tracy scoffed. Since when has anyone in this family respected privacy? You included. She unfolded the letter and read aloud. There is another child, her child. Care to explain that one, Monica? Monica's face went pale. She turned away, trying to compose herself. That letter was never meant for you. I gathered that much, Tracy said coolly. So? Who is she? Or is it a he? Did you and Alan have another child that you just forgot to mention to the rest of us? It's not what you think, Monica said quietly, almost pleading. Please, Tracy, put that letter away. Oh no, this is far too interesting. You, the picture of propriety, hiding an entire child? My, Monica. You always did have a flair for drama, but this takes the cake. Monica's hands trembled slightly. She took a deep breath. It was before Alan. Before I even met him. I was young, in medical school. There was a man, and things happened fast. I wasn't ready to be a mother. Tracy's smug expression faltered slightly. So you gave her up? Monica nodded. I didn't have a choice. I wanted to keep her, but my parents insisted she be adopted. I thought I'd made peace with it. But then Alan found out, and he made that note in the will in case it ever came to light. Tracy sat back down, stunned but trying not to show it. So there's a woman out there, a Quartermaine by blood, who doesn't even know it. She's not a Quartermaine, Monica corrected softly. She has her own life. I never wanted to drag her into this madness. Tracy leaned forward. Well, too late. Because now I know. And if there's one thing I can't stand, it's unfinished family business. Monica's tone hardened. Tracy, I am begging you, let this go. But Tracy wasn't one to let go of a secret like this. She spent the next few days quietly making calls, digging through adoption records, using her ELQ connections to pull files from decades ago. And one evening, while sitting in the Quartermaine study, she finally found a match. A birth certificate. A name. Rebecca Shaw. Tracy's eyes widened as she remembered that name. The resemblance to Emily had always been uncanny. Years ago, Rebecca had come to town claiming to be Emily's twin, a story that ended in heartbreak and deceit. But what if the truth was even more twisted? What if Rebecca wasn't Emily's twin at all, but Monica's long-lost daughter? The next morning, Tracy stormed into the hospital, her heels clicking sharply against the tile. She spotted Monica in the hallway, reviewing patient charts. "Tracy, what are you doing here?" Monica asked, exasperated. Tracy held up the birth certificate. "You lied to me." Monica froze. "Where did you get that?" "Oh, you'd be surprised how easy it is to get what you want when your family name still carries weight around here," Tracy said smugly. Rebecca Shaw. That ring any bells? Monica's heart dropped. "No," she said softly, shaking her head. "That's impossible." "Is it?" Tracy pressed. "She showed up years ago, right after Emily died. Same face, same eyes. And you never once thought to check if there was something more to it?" Monica's eyes welled. "I couldn't. I was barely surviving losing Emily. When Rebecca came, I wanted to believe she was family, but when the truth came out, I couldn't bear to dig any deeper. I told myself she was just a con artist." "Well, she wasn't," Tracy said bluntly. "Congratulations, Monica. You have another daughter, and she's been walking around Port Charles all this time." Monica turned away, trying to steady her breathing. I can't deal with this." "Oh, but you have to," Tracy said, stepping closer. "Because if I found it, someone else can too. And once this hits the light of day, you can bet the Quartermain name will be all over the papers again." Monica glared at her. "You always find a way to weaponize people's pain, don't you?" Tracy crossed her arms. "Pain or not, the truth matters." Later that evening, Monica sat alone in the Quartermain den, staring at a photograph of Emily. Her fingers brushed over the frame. "Oh, Emily," she whispered. "You always said family finds its way home. Maybe you were right." The door creaked open behind her. Tracy stepped in, this time less confrontational. "I didn't tell anyone. Yet." Monica didn't look up. "Why?" "Out of mercy?" Tracy sighed. "Believe it or not, I'm not completely heartless. I know what it's like to lose a child. And to find one you didn't expect." Monica turned to her. "What are you saying?" Tracy shrugged slightly. "Maybe you should be the one to reach out to her. Before someone else does."